guys, I'm Lori. Welcome back to my channel. If you haven't been here before, I talk about all things creative, including making jewelry, making crafts, business issues involved, and 3D printing, because I just launched my 3D printing business on Etsy in January. So that's been a big focus of the last few videos, and I'm trying to build this channel up. So this one is also about 3D printing, which you can probably hear my printers in the background. Ignore that. I had a big order come through on eBay that is finishing up printing right now. But hopefully it's not too loud and distracting. Anyway, this time of year, it's spring. This is the prime season when craft shows start up. And when you first get your 3D printer, I think a lot of people think, I'm going to do craft shows, make my money back from my printer, and make a ton of money, and build it up to a business, and all that kind of thing. And I kind of want to talk to you guys about why that's probably not a good idea. Why trying to make money that way is not the easiest, and it's probably not going to serve you in the long run. So we're going to discuss this. First of all, I have done events as a seller, not of 3D printed items. I don't sell my 3D printed items at craft shows, but I have done a ton of things, from homemade stuff to things I bought wholesale and sold since the 1980s. Yikes. Probably some of you guys watching weren't even born yet. And wow, why did I think of that? Because now I feel old. Alright. Anyway, I've done shows as a seller. I've also ran science fiction conventions for 13 years. So I know both sides, being a seller and being an event organizer. And I'll be happy to answer any questions about either if you guys want to comment. But what I really want to talk about is to examine how much you can actually make. You know, I keep seeing these YouTube videos saying, I made a killing at the craft show, or I made a lot of money at the craft show. And then when I watch the video, they made $200, $300, maybe $500 at a show. And they're excited about that. And I have to think they're not doing the math if they're excited about it. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about actual profit, not just the money that you might gross. Because they're two different things. And if you don't know your numbers, you need to learn your numbers if you're going to be in business, okay? First of all, most events will charge a fee for being there. You'll find some events free, like your local church may have one now and then, or your school or something like that may offer a free event. But for the most part, you're going to have to pay a fee to be at that show. And that fee can range anywhere from $20 to several $100s to, if it's a big show like science fiction conventions, like I used to do all the time, some of the big science fiction conventions are $800, $1,000, $1,500 and more a table or a booth. And that's a lot of money to lay out for a show. Shows are very, very hit or miss. You can have one show that you do phenomenal at, and then the next show you do absolutely nothing. And it can even vary from year to year. You know, I used to do a couple shows every single year. Some years I'd have really great years. Other years I'd barely make my table fees back. It's really a crapshoot. You never know how it's going to go. And there's a lot of factors that can determine how well you're going to sell, but you can do everything right and still not make the sales. It just, you never know. It's like I said, it's a total crapshoot. So You can't go into it expecting to make money. Okay, that's my first warning. Because you probably won't. You might have some sales. It's also going to depend on the other vendors at the event. Even if you're lucky enough to be the only person with 3D printed items at that event, if there's somebody that has something a little bit more popular, that's where the money's going to go. You know, people spend money based on things like, do they need it or do they want it? And something you need, like food, because you have to eat, will tend to take the money first, and then what's ever left gets spent on things that you don't need or things that are just for fun. And the big mistake is making the same old things everybody else is printing. How many flexi dragons and little flexi animals and dragon eggs and that kind of thing have you seen? I mean, I live in a fairly small town here in East Central Florida, and there's at least 2 stores that I know of in my little downtown area that have 3D printed animals and dragons all the time, not just at an event, but all the time. I've also seen 1, and I think 2 different sellers at the farmers market and our Live After 5 event and things like that that my town has that are selling the same things. So not only are you competing for somebody's money for everything else that's being sold at that event, but now you're directly competing with another 3D printer. Even if you're lucky enough to be the only 3D printer at that event, you're still competing for those dollars. So your prints had better be good, first of all, and they better be something interesting. And what most people do is go cheap. They figure, okay, well, the economy's not good, people don't have a lot of money, but it only costs me $1 to print this, so if I sell it for $5, I'm making money. Are you? Really? Probably not. We'll get into that. So, first of all, what you choose to print at a show is going to be a huge factor in if you make sales or not. How well it's printed. I have seen some absolutely crappy prints that people are trying to sell, and I'm like, I would never ever ship that. I would never ever show that to anybody as an example of 3D prints, because rough layer lines, joints that don't work. I've seen broken toes on some of those little animals. I mean, and people are still trying to sell them. If you're competing with other people, your first instinct is probably going to be try to undercut them, which means a race to the bottom, and you're going to make even less money than if you price your products properly. Which, if you make something for $1, you should be selling it for at least $8 to $10, not $5, not 3 for $5, which I've seen a bunch of times. It's crazy, or anything like that. Because you have to factor in all of your expenses, not just the cost of filament. And all of your expenses involves, first of all, the license fee that you paid to be able to print that item. Unless you modeled it yourself, which is wonderful, and I highly recommend, if you aren't modeling your own products, you learn how to model even basic products, because that will set you apart, being unique. But most people will pay Patreon 3D modelers for the commercial license rights in order to print and sell their products. Cinderwing on Patreon is one of the probably most famous ones right now because of the articulated dragons that really exploded everywhere there for a while. But there's also, you know, the fidget clickers and the flexi animals and the dragon eggs and all that kind of stuff. And they're cool. Don't get me wrong. They're fun to play with. They're cool. But they're not necessities for people. And the only way you're probably going to sell most of them is if you do those 2 for $5 deals. Because that's what people expect at events. I don't know how many times I've seen a 3D printer not selling anything because they're cute, but people think, I can't afford that, or it's not worth that, or whatever. It's really, really hard to convince people to let go of money these days. So first of all, you have to pay the licensing fee for whatever products. Let's say you're paying make this round numbers. Let's say your table fee cost you $100. Let's say you're paying for 5 different makers on Patreon at $10 a month. So you're paying $50 for the makers. You also are going to need a bunch of stuff to actually set up your table. Most events do not provide tables. Well, it depends on the event. Some events do provide a table and a chair, and then beyond that, you have to bring what you want to use. It depends on the event. But let's say that you have to bring everything. If it's an outdoor event, you're going to need a tent. You're going to need tent weights. You're going to need lights. You're going to need a way to run those lights, either solar or a generator. You're going to need your tables, table covers. You're going to need chairs. You're going to need display items like signage. You're going to need things to put your pieces in, to display your pieces, shelves or bins or buckets or whatever you choose to display your pieces in. All that costs. You're going to need probably a system like Square, which the Square reader is free, but there is a charge for using credit card, for taking credit cards, of course. But you're gonna need a tablet or a smartphone or something that you can use to take those sales on. You're gonna need bags, possibly. I mean, it adds up very, very quickly. And let's say you buy everything you need for the show for $500. And yes, I know, before somebody comments, you don't have to spend that every single show, because once you get some materials, you can reuse them from one show to another. Yes, I know this. But this is talking about, in a broad sense, what your expenses are going to be. Okay, so let's just go with me for now. So now you're into this. Let's see, $100 for the fee, or $100 for the table, $50 for your licensing fees, and $500 for tables, table covers, supplies, etc. So we're up to $650 so far. And we haven't even talked about actually printing your inventory. It's going to take you weeks, which is electricity, it's filament, it's wasted filament when you have failed prints, because no matter what printer you have, you're going to have failed prints now and then. It's the life of a 3D printer. You're going to have, the biggest one is your time. It can take weeks for you to get everything printed, get everything set for your show, everything else. But let's just say you're doing 1,000 different pieces of 3D printed whatever, and on average maybe they cost you $1 in filament, okay? I'm lowballing everything just to get the thing going. So that's $1,000 you now have in inventory. Odds are you're not going to sell all that at $1,000. which means you're going to carry that debt over into the next show and the next show and the next show until you sell it all off. And of course, you're going to reprint other things for the other show, so you're going to keep incurring that additional inventory cost. Plus, you have to store the inventory. You have to move the inventory. If you're working from home, maybe you have a closet you can store it in between shows, which is great. But if not, you might have to rent a storage space. You know, back when I used to do a science fiction convention, we ran out of room in our garage, and I had to store art show panels and other supplies for the convention in a storage unit we had to rent. And so that's an additional expense. You also have gas and travel time and food and drinks for you if you're doing the show alone, for whoever goes with you. We're now up to what, $1,650. Say the gas costs you $50, so let's round it up to $1,700. Say another $100 for food, $1,800. You're up to almost $2,000 in costs just to do that one craft show. And no guarantee that you are going to make any sales whatsoever. And odds are you are not going to make $2,000 at the show. Odds are you won't. So, you are now in the hole. You are in a deficit. Yes, you might have some cash in your pocket after the show, and people tend to only focus on the fact they came home with cash, and they don't do all the math. And that's why I want to encourage you guys to really, really think about all these extra expenses that you're going to have before you commit to doing one event, let alone an event every weekend like I see some people doing. The biggest thing we haven't even talked about is your time. Because let's say the show is 8 hours long, which is a typical time for shows. Let's say it takes you an hour to get there and an hour to get back. That's now 10 hours out of your day. Doesn't even count the time to set up. It probably takes you another hour to set up and an hour to tear down. That's 12 hours out of your day. Even if you only pay yourself $10 an hour, which I see so many business owners forget to pay themselves or not pay themselves a fair wage. Okay, I mean, if you're going for a job interview tomorrow and they said, oh, we want to hire you, we'll pay you $10 an hour, what will you say? You say, oh, great, I can start tomorrow. Or you're going to say, no, I need more than that. Right? Probably you're going to say, I need more than that. I don't pay myself less than $30 an hour. Because that, to me, is what my time is worth. But let's say you're paying yourself $10 an hour. Those 12 hours, that's another $1,200 on top of your expenses. If your spouse or significant other or brother, sister, whatever, or friend comes and helps you, you need to take into account their time too. Is this show worth your time to do? And I know what other people are I know what somebody's gonna comment in below. Well, I'll just print better items that I can sell for a higher price. That's what I'll do. Okay. 9 times out of 10, when I see somebody say that, you know what they try to sell? Spider-Man, Batman, Iron Man, and other popular characters. You know, the Minecraft movie just came out and is real popular. I've already seen sellers selling Minecraft items. Don't do that. There is a thing called intellectual property and copyrights and trademarks. And this is kind of a pet peeve of mine because I've seen so many designers on Patreon or those STL collection sites that you can pay a monthly fee for and have commercial rights to print and sell the items that they made. The problem with that is, as a 3D modeler myself, if I make something based in any way, shape, or form on a TV show, a movie, a comic book, a game, a book character, any copyrights that belong to someone else, I am not allowed to sell it. Okay? Unless that artist, that modeler creator has paid a licensing fee to the copyright holder, which I can guarantee you they're not. Licensing fees range in the thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Okay? I can guarantee you they are not. If they say they have the license, tell them you need to see a copy of the contract. Because unless they are really rich and just doing modeling on the side, they do not. I very much doubt they have a license. So even if I created an Iron Man figure on my computer from scratch, that's in a different pose, that's never been seen in a comic book or movie, that is still a copyrighted character I cannot sell. I cannot give you the commercial rights to print something I don't own the commercial rights to print and sell. And I have seen so many booths and so many videos on YouTube that they're showing off their booths, and there's a Spider-Man, there's an Iron Man, there's a Hulk, you know. And then if I call somebody on that, they'll say, "Oh, well, that one's not for sale. It's just for display." They're thinking it will draw people into their booth, so they'll get this for attention grabbing, but they won't actually sell it. Think about that from the customer's point of view. If I am a sci-fi geek, so if I go to a craft show and I see this big, beautiful figure of Iron Man sitting at your table, and I go, "Oh, that's incredible. How much is it?" And you say, "Oh, I'm sorry, that's not for sale. Everything else on my table is," and you look at everything else on the table, and it's dragons and flexi animals, and has nothing to do with Marvel, with Iron Man. I'm not going to be interested. It's a bad customer experience. It's basically the equivalent of clickbait, if you think about it that way. It's baiting somebody into your booth with something that has absolutely nothing related to what you're selling. As a customer, I would turn around and never look at your stuff again. I mean, why would I? Why do you think that's a great idea to attract people to your booth? I don't get it. Instead, now there are things that you can print, like original dragons, or something that's not based on a character in anything. You know, you could print, paint, whatever, something like that for attention and sell it. But still, it's going to be a harder thing to find and a harder thing to come by and a harder thing to find the right audience for. Which brings me to the other market. Which brings me to another topic, I should say. what you are selling needs to match the people that are at the market. And this is the only time I would do an event. Okay, so let me get into this for a minute. My 3D printing shop, at least right now, is all based on Miniverse, which Miniverse are these little crafting kits that they're blind packed. I don't have one sitting here, of course, into little balls that are resin kits that the person buying it assembles. And they have resin and different things. I got hooked on them when I discovered Harry Potter Make It Mini Potions set. And I got hooked on the series, and that's what led me to create the display objects that I sell. Now, before somebody says about this, oh, you're selling Harry Potter. No, I'm selling display items that can be used for Harry Potter. It can also be used for Barbie. It can also be used for mini brands, which is another miniature thing. It can be used for a general dollhouse or diorama. None of my items have any Harry Potter logos on them, and they never will. I have a legal disclaimer on my items that says this is not a licensed item, which I got verbiage from a lawyer. I sell, and mini brands or Miniverse paid the licensing fee to Warner Brothers, who owns Harry Potter's film rights, or J.K. Rowling. I'm not sure who they paid, but they licensed. They paid the licensing fee in order to sell their craft kits with Harry Potter. They also sell Lord of the Rings. They sell Harry Potter Honeydukes, which is what I launched my shop with, was Honeydukes display objects, items. And they also do cafe series and botanical series and a whole bunch of different series, all of which I can design display pieces around. Because once you've made 5 to 10 of these little craft kits, you run into the problem of, where do I display these? How do I show these off? Do I just sit them on my shelf, So what I did was solve a problem for those people that use that product. If there wasn't a convention in town for Miniverse collectors, or Harry Potter collectors, or dollhouse makers, or Barbie, because they're the same scale as Barbie, 1/6 scale. If there was an event like that, that would be worth my time doing. Because it's my target audience of targeted products, of things these people are probably going to want to buy. Not generic dragons, tchotchkes, and little animals. As cute as they are, they have a limited appeal, especially at something like a farmer's market or flea market or craft show. However, if the niche that you're selling in has a show, even if you don't make a ton of money at it, you can write the whole thing off as a marketing expense, first of all. Second of all, you can have flyers and business cards, QR codes, whatever, so that even if somebody does not buy at the show, and the odds are they may buy later from your website. That would be a show worth doing. And that would be worth my time. It's not going out every weekend. Like I said, your time is more valuable than that. And you have to also consider, is there something I could do at home on my computer working on my business that potentially could bring me in more guaranteed income than taking 10, 12 hours up every weekend at a show. Especially if you're doing 3D printing as a side hustle, which a lot of people start out doing. and you're working during the week, you only have limited time to be able to create new products if you do modeling, or find new products, or do research into what products are going to sell, or do research into finding a show to do. Your time can be better spent doing all those kind of things, most likely, than it is doing a show that you may or may not make any money at, and probably will not even break even once you do all the calculations and you do all the math. So this brings me to the last part of this video, which I know I've rambled a lot, and I'm trying to get better at doing videos. So I'm trying to, I don't do scripts. I have a little bit of notes on my computer behind the camera, but I've been trying to get a little bit more natural. And if anything that I've said resonates with you, or if you have any questions, I would really, really appreciate it if you could hit the like and subscribe, because I'm really trying to get to that first 1,000 subscribers. I'm getting closer, but I really want to get to 1,000. So I'd appreciate it. Last thing I'm going to talk about is, what can you sell for money? My best suggestion is, what are you interested in? What is your spouse interested in? What is your family interested in? Is there something that they're interested in that you could create a product around to solve a problem? Like I said, my pieces solve the problem of how to display these little craft kits after you make them. There are so many hobbies. Are you RC cars? Or I have a friend who's into model railroads. Model railroads often like to have, model railroaders often like to have miniature buildings and set pieces and terrain pieces, all of which you could 3D print. You could do something like that. If you, another friend used to do RC cars. That's a great thing to 3D print parts for and accessories for. You know, think about things that tend to wear out that they need to replace a lot. Think about ways to display pieces, ways to store pieces. All those kind of things are probably going to be more profitable than little tchotchkes and dragons. You can also think about different professions. Is somebody you know a nurse? You could ask them, you know, what problems do you have? Is there something that you wish you had that you don't have right now? Like a way to store something, a way to carry something, a way to track something, whatever. Fishermen are great for needing little things, lures and ways to store lures, and ways to bait hooks, and you could, there's so many things you could design for that could make you a heck of a lot more money. And again, if there's an event for, there's events all the time for model railroaders. There's events all the time for RC cars. There's events for drone flyers. I mean, there's events somewhere in the country for everything. And even if it's a show that you can't travel to, you can contact them and see if they have a flyer table, which is usually by their entrance to the event, and it just has flyers people can pick up on their way through to have your website and your store information and all that kind of stuff on them. A lot of, like, when I used to do my events, people used to send me flyers and I put them out for no charge. You know, I put them out on the flyer table for them. Some shows, especially bigger shows, have program books you can advertise in. There are a ton of ways you can get the word out, even if you don't go to the show. And if you can afford to go to the show, if the bigger shows are going to cost you multiple, probably thousands of dollars to do. But if it's the right niche, if you have the right products, you can make that back much easier than you can doing craft shows. So that's my 2 cents. Hopefully I've said something that maybe struck a chord with you a little bit. Again, if you can like and subscribe, I'd appreciate it. I'm trying to get build this channel up. I'm trying to get better at producing videos. My goal is to do 1 video a week at least. I have a bunch of ideas. I keep procrastinating. I'm bad about that. So I'm trying to get better at it. But I'm going to try to release at least 1 video a week, probably in the format like this where I don't do a lot of editing, just because it's faster. I find that if I edit it, I watch myself and then I think, oh, I look horrible. I'm not gonna release this, and then I never release it. So I'm just gonna bite the bullet and pretty much do a very simple little video like this, not edit it very much, and post it. And hopefully you'll like it. Hopefully you get what I'm coming from with all this. And like I said, if you have any questions, oh, that was the last thing I was going to say. If there isn't an event in your area for that particular niche, you might consider starting one. Like I said, if you have any questions about running events, drop me a comment. I'll be happy to answer them. I am thinking about doing maybe once a month, doing a live question and answer / brainstorming thing that we can bounce ideas off each other, or we can ask questions of each other. You know, I don't know everything. I don't pretend I know everything. But I have learned a little bit in my 62 years around here. And, you know, I've had my e-commerce stores now for 25 years. So, yeah, I know a little bit. But I don't pretend to know everything. But I'm always happy to share information. I'm always happy to answer questions. And, yeah, I hope to see you guys again soon. Have a great day. Take care.